Hello, Kingdom Wealth Builders. Hi, it's Tally. Hope you're all having a fabulous week. I am having a fabulous week, although I've been met with a number of challenges since I've gotten back from my business trip. And I know that that does not faze me because it means that I what I've been accomplishing uh, um, is is being met with obstacles, right? And so that doesn't mean that it's a time to stop. It means it's a time to press in. And so we are pressing in to get done our task at hands. And one of the tasks that I have is the opportunity to speak with you each week and to help usher you into entrepreneurship. So forgive me my tardiness. Believe me, it was beyond my control, but nevertheless, we are here this week and we are past the halfway mark. We are at week 27. Week 27. Cannot believe that half the year of working on this that we have spent um, 26 weeks already working on your new business. And now we have crossed that threshold. And now it should be downhill from here, right? Well, we will see as all things in entrepreneurship are it's a roller coaster ride. It is certainly a roller coaster ride. But we are grateful nonetheless because we're not building just any old business. We are building kingdom businesses. And so we want to now start to really lean into what that means. I've been kind of spoon feeding you these last weeks as we were dealing with going from your calling to an actual foundation and have worked out the clarity in your calling and started to lay the foundation for your businesses, for your organizations, and even your enterprises. And now we've worked on your foundation, and hopefully we have laid it in a way that it is secure, it is sturdy, and you can now start to build upon it as we reach towards that goal of actually launching or expanding wherever you are in your entrepreneurship journey. And so now this week, I want us to take a step back and just really kind of take a real good high view of our endeavors. And I want to talk about anticipate dominion in a little more depth because you're ready. You're ready for it. And it's time to build up, right? And so I want to uh, what do I want to do? I want to share with you the framework that I use in my company when I'm working with founders and leaders who are building enterprises. And so our scripture this week is where we started in the beginning. It's Genesis chapter 1 and verse 26. And just to remind you, it reads, Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over the livestock, and over all the earth. And so for the last 26 weeks, we've been building towards our businesses, our organizations, our ministries, right? And so we've talked about vision, we've talked about calling, we have certainly talked about legal structure and financial systems. Those are both needed. And we've talked about how your agreements actually reflect covenant and the discipline of providing what you promised and getting clear about really what is it that you are selling, whether it's a product or a service. What's the outcome that of individual experiences after having either used your product or utilize your services, right? So we dealt with that a bit, and we've talked about being a prudent builder. That is not entrepreneurship is not reactionary, right? And so we've been establishing our framework around kingdom economics or kingdom entrepreneurship, and what the operational foundations that are needed that make your business truly a buildable kingdom business. So today we're going to we're just going to start today, and I'm just going to kind of lay it out for you, and then each week for the next few weeks, we really will dig into it, because you're not ordinary entrepreneurs. You're kingdom entrepreneurs. So that means God's given you a mandate to do something in the earth, and what you're doing is a solution to his people's problems. So he is solving people's problems through the idea, the invention, the service, the product, the offer, the transformation that you are doing through your businesses. It is meant to be an answer to someone's prayer. So we don't take that lightly. Don't take it lightly. And so what we've done at Anticipate Dominion is we've kind of ironed out a framework so that we're always keeping kingdom in the center of all of our decisions and throughout all of our divisions and departments. And so we're going to talk about that framework today. It's the Dominion framework. And every letter in the word Dominion is doing work for us. So Dominion is a design specification. Yes, Dominion is what we have been mandated to do. So, and it gives us the blueprint of not only what we do, but how we do it. And so we talked about it in week one when we talked about having a dominion mandate from Genesis 1, chapter 1, verses 26 through 28. And so now that we're going to look at it again, we want to remember exactly what our mandate is. It said, let us make mankind in our image and let them rule, have dominion, subdue. And so I said in week one that those aren't just poetic words. That wasn't Moses being eloquent. No, that was actually although it was very eloquent, that was actually our job description that was given to us before the fall. Okay, so work did not enter the picture because of sin. Work was always our mandate, and we work through entrepreneurship. Okay, so we want to start to really build upon that foundation, and that's what does it look like to have dominion? What is genuine dominion, which is the responsibility, it's accountability, and it's also cultivation. It is promoting, promulgating, multiplying, increasing that which God gave us to oversee. And so that we always do things in a way that is continually replenishing, so that we don't run into scarcity. We don't erode our ability to continue creating. So we don't waste and we don't strip, right? So we want to talk about that more specifically because we build to last. We build things to outlast us and to be an inheritance for generations to come. And so that kind of enterprise does not just fall out of the sky. That is something that you have to do by design, by planning. And so, and Anticipate Dominion, that's what we work on, that plan. And so today, I want to talk about the Dominion framework and just kind of run through what it is, and then um, in the next coming weeks, we'll dig into it more deeper. So we take each letter of the word dominion and deal with a specific aspect of business. And so D stands for discern the error. Yes, we start with hearing from God and Him telling us and us evaluating the time, the season, the error that we're in. So we always want to understand the environment that your business operates in, okay? Because it's operating in the natural world. And so economic, cultural, regulatory, technology, all of that impacts how you're going to operate your business. So we're always asking the question, what does this moment demand? Right? Because time continues to move. So we're always constantly checking in. What is this moment demanding of us in our business? What is shifting that will affect how you want to run your business, the market that you're in, the audience or customer base that you are dealing with, and has the compliance or regulatory landscape shifted in this area? What are you seeing in the headlines? Yes, what's going on in the stock markets, what's going on with supply, what's going on with tariffs, all can impact your way you are maneuvering in the environment, in the landscape, in the area that you are. So we're always keeping our ears to the mouth of God, of course, and He directs us what to review, what to get a better understanding on what is coming next so that we can be prepared for it. So that's discern the error. But then O, the first O is obey the blueprint. Now, we've been working on a business plan, and the business plan is your blueprint. You want to align your vision, your values, and the way you are in this particular section. This is the governance section of this group. We want to look at how are we governing? Have we veered off from the business plan? Are we following the strict and strategic blueprint that we spent time developing? So your plan, your operating agreement, your team structure, all of this should be expressed as a coherent design. You're not just doing something today and then tomorrow you're doing it a different way. You have planned it out. You have figured out the methodology that you want to begin with. Not talking about shifting or pivoting when we need to, but we're talking about the overall blueprint of how we are expecting our businesses to be able to be successful. So we want to obey that blueprint. It requires us to be disciplined and not run on our emotions. And so, and the blueprint again our business plan is where we are starting. It's a marker for us to measure against, and your business plan will grow and expand as your business grows and expands. All right. So we want to make sure that what we've come up with as our business plan, as our overall approach to business, that we stay in obedience to it and that we're not tossed to and fro every time we hear some new method. All right. So that's obey the blueprint. Then we want to master, absolutely must master kingdom economics. We have to have financial models. This is a business. You have to have financial models that are rooted in stewardship. God has entrusted you to carry out this business, so you are his stewards. So our kingdom values, our long-term sustainability. Again, this is not we're not in the hustle economy. We're not trying to make a couple of dollars. We're not selling um, t-shirts out of the back of our cars. We are creating and operating real businesses that are meant to generate generational income for us today and for generations to come. So that requires us to not just think about profits, but to actually think about pricing, the way you handle people, generosity, your giving, your giving commitments, and building a reserve. Because again, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster ride. So you want to have reserves for those times when the market does shift, when administrations change, and you have to deal with new complexities in the law, in government, in politics, and in financing. It all works together, and we want to be prepared for it by understanding it. And so we master kingdom economics. Then the letter I in Dominion, the first I stands for innovate through insight. You want to innovate through insight. And that means we look at data. If you are a social media based company, you want to look at your analytics and see how your audience is engaging with you. Data, information is a part of us running our businesses. And so data gives us clarity on what to pray for. Data gives us clarity on what to modulate, information, and deep insight, because God will unlock your understanding, right? We're always asking Him to open our understanding, because we receive a lot of information that we have to digest it and then know how to apply it with wisdom in our companies. And so there are times, prayerfully, in each of your businesses, there are times that you will have to innovate. You will want to innovate, because that means you see a greater opportunity when you do something a little differently, or you offer something more in the marketplace. So innovation, we want to build into the way that we do business, because we're always expecting greater and newer opportunities to emerge for God to open and reveal to us. And so that requires us to have insight into what He is showing us, and to know where to move into deeper, richer waters. All right, so that's innovate through insight. Then we're always navigating. We are in a land that we are not from. And so we're always navigating how to make it through this land, because literally we are on a pilgrim journey, right? So it's the same thing for your business. And so I do an event every year called the Earth is the Lord's Prayer Vigil, and we do it on Earth Day. And God specifically gave that to me as a reminder, as a correction, as a direction, that this earth, this planet is His, not just the United States, not just any other country, not the G20, all of them, all 192 countries, all of this earth, the land and the seas, belong to the Lord. But we are navigating through this earth, and there are global systems that can impact us. And so, as we are growing in our dominion, meaning that we know that we're here to be fruitful, we're here to multiply that fruit, we're here to do it in a way that's always replenishing the fruit, so that we always have fruit and the fruit shall remain, and that we subdue it, meaning that we secure it and uh, protect it and manage it in a way so that it can continue doing those things. And that's what dominion means, that we govern that process. And so when governing that process, we don't operate in a vacuum. You have to produce the product or service. You have to manifest it physically, right? Even if it's digital, it's still a physical a manifestation. So that means you need to get those supplies, those ingredients and equipment and all of the goods that you need to put together your product or your service and how to deliver it. That you don't do by yourself. Even if you grow your own food, you get seeds from someplace, right? Even if you own your own land to grow your own food, you've got to get water from someplace. You've got to get hands to help you to harvest it. Even if you are producing a service, like I am an attorney, and I provide counsel. So I have to get some knowledge in my head and some wisdom to be able to deliver that service to you. Someone's got to credential me to tell me that I have the ability to say things with the authority that I say them in. All right. So all of those are external to me. There's always something going on related to your business that is external to you. So you want to be able to navigate those global systems. Certainly, if you are relying on supplies from outside of the United States, then global supply chains apply to you. So all of this, we are now in a global economy. All of this requires us to have an understanding of that and to know how to read the maps, know how to navigate these systems that we find ourselves impacted by and also engaging. And so we want to make sure that we are not constantly being surprised by what something is required. So we want to be prepared for that and have a route, have mapped out how we're going to get around or through these various systems that we will encounter. So navigation is a large part of having dominion. And then at some point, soon, hopefully sooner rather than later, but certainly at a point when we're ready for it, you're going to want to grow and scale. And so we want to implement at scale, meaning that we want to take that big, wonderful vision that God has given you, and it's big. We know it's big because it's too hard for us to do on our own. It is God can only bless it for it to become what it is going to become. So we know that we're going to scale at some point. And so we build in a way in anticipation of scaling. So we are implementing even at our early stages for scale. And so we want to make sure that we have operations that are running consistently. We want to have systems and processes in place that can grow. So we're mindful of what platforms and various apps we use. Can we grow with that app? Do they work together? Technology, is a part of our lives. And so we're looking at from the beginning and always as a part of our managing and growing and scaling the business, we're looking at how to do that in a way that will not only be impactful, but it will be effective. And effective is more than just being efficient, but it's being done in a way that has the greatest impact, that has the greatest sustainability, and is most meaningful to the people who are working in those systems. So we implement at scale because we already know that we're building something big. And so we develop the muscle to always be growing. And because dominion comes with authority, it simply does. We occupy with authority. We occupy our territory. If he has given you an industry sector, then he has given you the authority to thrive in that sector and to be a leader in that sector. So we want to establish a presence and legitimate influence in the industry that we are planted in. And so occupying, having dominion is not passive. No, not at all. It means that your enterprise is present, it's governing, it's being a good neighbor, it's raising the standard. Again, we are kingdom builders. We set the standard. And so we don't we don't use exploitive dominion. We're not here to rape and pillage, like some people think about capitalism and that, you can just do anything any kind of way. No, we have God's authority. And so we, again, back to Genesis 1:26, we're in his image and his likeness. So we behave as he does. So we occupy with authority. And then finally, because what we're building is not just for our own gain, our own pleasure, our own convenience. What we are building is for the future. So we name that eternal legacy. The end, the final end in dominion is name the eternal legacy. And so we are building something that is going to be successive, something that's going to be passed on, something that is going to outlive our natural lives. And so we structure our businesses, our foundations, our enterprises for that kind of continuity, that we're always training and preparing the next generation. And that means that we're preparing them to handle wealth. All right. Many of us, this is we are first generation wealth builders, or at best, second generations with a modest foot up. And we thank God for our grandparents who just had this ability to save. And it's something that we're trying to pass on to future generations, because what we're building, we don't want it to fall apart with our grandkids. So we want to be instilling a legacy now so that our grandchildren's grandchildren will know how to run things, manage wealth, because they'll have more that they'll be having dominion over. And so that's the real kind of quick overview of the dominion framework and what we're always kind of operating with our founders, and instilling as infrastructure in what we're building. And I think that at this point, at week 27, we're ready to really have the mindset of being kingdom entrepreneurs, and really the depth of what that means. And so with that, I do want to deal with something up front that often comes up, and when we're talking to our faith community, and um, and uh, and we just need to hit it head on. Um, I've talked about frameworks. I've talked about business planning. I've talked about having a blueprint, and all of these things are are not aspirational. Um, Sometimes when we hear these terms, we think that, that's nice to say, but actually they're guidance. there are governing principles of how we go about doing things in the most successful way. There are lots of ways to do business, but we're not like everybody else. And so we organize and manage ourselves in a way that best reflects the God in whom we believe. And so the Dominion framework is meant to aid us to go about it in a way that we're every day not trying to figure it out again, but it gives us just some guideposts to help us move along more effectively. And so we want to make sure that we spend the time to think about these things while it's not quite busy, while you're not yet overwhelmed with your orders and your time constraints that are going to happen. I'm a living witness to it, right? So I want you to take heed of that now, so you're not always surprised or shocked about what's coming at you. So our Dominion framework is meant to be architecture. It's meant to be the house frame that you use to build something that can be sturdy and last for generations. And so that's the second thing that specifically really comes up a lot, because we're faith-filled people, we're spirit-led people, and absolutely that is our foundation. And being spirit led and having a framework or having a business plan are not competing with each other. No, the frameworks, business plans, blueprints are all tools that the Lord gives us to be able to work better for Him. And so I really want to make sure that we don't get trapped into feeling that we're being constrained and we're being required to, follow certain rules and guidelines. That's not how you should be receiving this. You should be receiving this as God has given us a resource and to aid us to do this great endeavor that He's given our hands to do. And so He doesn't give us an idea, He doesn't give us um, an assignment without giving us the resources to get it done. And so these are tools and resources that aid us to get it done. So over the next few weeks, I will deal specifically with each aspect of our Dominion framework, because you're at a level in your business launching that we want to make sure that it's shored up as strongly as we can at this level. And we don't want to put off some of these decisions, some of these implementations to later, because then you're going to have gaps and holes in what you are trying to do. And I believe many, if not all of you, are doing such incredible businesses that it requires this kind of support, this kind of, think of it like support beams, that we want to shore up these organizations, these businesses, these enterprises in a way that they can really grow and last a long time. So this week, I know I've covered a lot, and no worries. There's a handout that can help you walk through it again and give you a fuller insight. But over the next few weeks, we will dig into it. So this week, I just want you to think about what dominion means to you now that you've heard me talk about it in this way. And I want you to identify one of the pillars that I raised today and see what resonates with you. Resonates in a good way, like, yeah, I hear you, and that's what I'm about. And also, what resonates with you in a way that makes you pause, makes you uncomfortable, makes you say, that's not what I was thinking. I want to hear that too. And I want you to hear that. I want you to wrestle with it, right? Because we want to have a good understanding and we want to find out now before we get bigger, before we bring on either employees or independent contractors, partners, we want to really make sure that we are grounded in what we're doing. And so that means that we face what's uncomfortable so that we can manage it more effectively in the future. So that's what I want you to reflect on this week in your own journals, or if you're feeling bold, you can put it in the comments, and I'll certainly read and respond, and happy to help you in this journey. Again, we are marching towards the launch of our businesses in a grander way, and we want to make sure when that harsh spotlight is on us that we are ready for it, and we're going to have dominion as the God has given us to have. And so hit me up in the comments, and we'll certainly be responsive. And now, and don't think that Dominion does not have a legal aspect to it. I wouldn't be executive counsel if I did not speak to legal ramifications related to anything that we're doing. And each letter in Dominion has a direct legal dimension that either protects your enterprise or exposes your enterprise. And we want to see where we land on each of it. And so discerning the error requires understanding regulatory requirements, knowing what your compliance landscape is before you start doing something. We want to make sure that we have whatever permits and certifications that are necessary. Obey the blueprint requires that your governing documents, your bylaws, your operation agreement, your stakeholders agreement, your shareholders agreement, all of your governing documents are in place. Um, Mastering kingdom economics. Of course, we want to be uh, doing things uh, in godly order. So we want to have clean financial practices and tax compliance. We live in a taxing land, so we want to be prepared for that and manage that throughout our business. We innovation through insight requires that when you use proprietary methodologies, whether they're yours, hopefully they are yours, that you have gotten the protection that are needed to make sure that that value stays in your company. Navigating global systems means that we have to understand that we're in a multi-state and even multinational jurisdictions. And so there are implications from that. Tariffs, just as an example, a recent example, impacts all business across the board. So we want to understand tariffs. So there are legal implications even there. And then we want to be able to implement at scale. And so that means that when we go to get bigger and more scrutiny is looked at us to get bigger. And why do I say that? Because when we grow, we typically either take on financing or take on a partner to be able to do business at greater levels. And working with either of those instances requires someone to look at our books to see how we're operating, to perform due diligence on us. And so we want to be prepared for that. And so implementing at scale has some legal underpinnings that we have to be aware of. And of course, anytime that you are operating under authority, right? And in this case, we're occupying our industry and our market with authority, means that your brand name, your key trademarks, all of that needs to be registered, because eyes are going to be on you saying that you are here with authority to be a leader in this industry. So then people are going to be looking at your name, wanting to copy you. So, wanting to utilize what you are providing. So, we want to make sure that we have legally protected it. So, again, it cannot be thwarted, it cannot be diminished in any way. So, even in occupying with authority, yes, we have authority, but then we have to carry ourselves in that authority. And then finally, naming our eternal legacy does mean that we have succession planning in our minds. I always say it like this. If you either one decided, I don't want to do this anymore, or two, have some kind of circumstance that you can't do it anymore, how does the business continue to function without you? And that's not something that necessarily is a far off. So we want to have a plan for that as early as possible. And it's not something that we put off for a rainy day, or, sometime in the future that we think is never going to be upon us. No, we deal with that uh, early on, because we want to, again, make sure the business stays healthy, and knowing who's going to cover in anyone's absence is a part of that healthiness. So we name our eternal legacy, because it means it's ongoing, that this business will continue. So we want to run a good health check against the Dominion framework, see where we are, see where there are holes and gaps, and we want to get those plugged up, because business only gets busier, prayerfully, and things will surprise you. So as much as we can be prepared for the things that we can discern, that means that we'll have greater capacity when the things that do surprise us come up. We'll have the muscle to deal with it. So that's my executive council tip to you today, especially letter N, naming the eternal legacy, because it's not so much about when you die, what will happen to the business. It's about right now, when you need a break, when you need to have a vacation. How does the business operate when you're not present? We need to factor that in now, so that we don't have burnout, and we have prepared the ones who are going to assist us in those absent periods. We want to prepare them earlier rather than later. All right. So focus on that. I know it's a lot to digest in this quick setting. We usually spend many weeks, because we're building rather large enterprises, but this is not too big for anyone. Any size business who says that they are kingdom builders, dominionaires in our world, are doing things in a way that are reflective of the Father, and operate like the Father. And He operates in a sustainable way. And so that's our mandate as well. All right. So that's it for me this week. Thank you for your patience. Next week, we will dig into discernment. It's the most important step in this journey of entrepreneurship and building God's kingdom. in a sustainable way. So we will spend a session on it. But this week, take a look back. You've come a long way in 26 weeks. You've done a lot. Uh, we salute you, congratulate yourself. Hopefully, you did something nice as a treat for having made this milestone. And then we quickly start to look forward because we've got you want to finish strong. We want to get these businesses launched. I'm looking forward to the many announcements that will be coming. I'm sure there's a way that that's going to be done in a community corporate like setting. But we want to. So that's what we're getting ready for. We want to be prepared for that, and anticipating that that is soon to come. Either individually or collectively, we want to make sure that we have shored up our businesses so that they can shine and we can have the spotlight on them. All right. Until next time, you have a great week, and I'll see you next time.